to Voices in Hyperspace, where friends get together.
Oh, no. You don't need to do that.
No?
We're not. Yeah, we're not doing that. We're doing more cold opens these days. But thank you.
No worries. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to talk now. Like, such a long.
You know what? We're gonna leave it in too. I'm gonna leave it in. Yeah. So this episode, we're looking at episode 13 of season 4, entitled "Rumors, Bargains, and Lies." I'm gonna be 100% transparent. This episode was so much better as an episode than the last couple, maybe the last 3. They're not setting up anymore. They're going through and making the story move forward on a lot of different things. We do have the same type of story. It's complex. It weaves in some of the mysteries that the audience is able to follow, but it's not like, wait a minute, what happened? It's more or less like, we're in this world and here are the points, here are the obstacles that the characters have to deal with. One of the main stories is we're hinting at some major implications for the galaxy, some changes, and I'm a little bit sad about it because I want to see this. You know, we're just getting a lot of exposition about the Minbari Civil War.
Oh, yeah.
And if you had inside knowledge about the way the season was supposed to go, even going back to season 3, the Minbari are supposed to become kind of like antagonists in the show again, but it didn't happen. And so that story got shrank a little bit. It's still there, and it honestly is so much more interesting than the way they're presenting it, but we'll get into it. And then the other major story, as far as like with, you know, the different lies that they're talking, the rumors and lies that they're talking about, Sheridan has to wrangle the non-aligned worlds again.
Mm-hmm.
But he has a genius plan. He's going to actually use their reluctance to work with each other against them. So it's actually kind of cool how he does that.
I liked Sheridan's plan for manipulating the non-aligned worlds by using their own behaviors against them, or not really against them, for them.
I am so much into this episode. I really kind of saw it as like a yes parent kind of situation. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to keep it at that. Like, yeah, he was definitely doing the yes parenting right now.
So to jump in, the crew, they're getting lunch, and Sheridan is like by himself, and deep in thought, his feet are kicked up on his desk, and he's mumbling to himself. Zach, who is again growing into his own, him and the rest of the crew, they're talking about how difficult it is to get the non-aligned worlds to cooperate and allow the White Stars to patrol their borders. And despite the success that they've had with Londo and Jokar, the non-aligned worlds, they're being stubborn and hard-headed, which, I mean, on the one hand, I guess I can say it's like, man, if the Centauri are doing something, we probably don't want to do that. But Sheridan, he's overhearing them talk. He finally has an outburst, like, I got it. He's explaining that he has an idea on how to convince them, the non-aligned worlds, to get the White Stars. And they're like, well, how are you going to do that? And he explains, by not convincing them. And everybody's looking at him like, what the heck are you talking about? That makes no sense. And then Sheridan orders Marcus to take 3 White Stars, go to Sector 87, and wait for further orders. And Marcus is like, I don't understand. And Sheridan's like, don't worry about it. Just do what you're told. Which that comes up a couple of times in the episode. Ivanova and Franklin, they're like expressing concern for Sheridan's behavior. Ivanova goes over and checks Sheridan's mug. She's like, nope, it's not alcohol. I don't know what's going on with this dude. You know, they're playing it up for comedy. You know, it's all good. Then we move to Delenn, and Delenn is in the White Star. She's en route to Minbar, her and Lanier, and they're talking about how the Civil War has begun and there's fighting erupting in the capital. So we got the 2 major storylines in play, and this is what I'm talking about. I wish they had shown more, because the Minbari Civil War is going on. It's been going on for the last couple of episodes. And this is something, honestly, if they had the budget, I would rather see more of that on screen than the station. And then we'll probably get a few more of these Minbari characters doing things, probably Rangers doing a lot more things. It would probably be a much more epic and emotional and even action-packed storyline. But all we got right now is exposition. And they picked the right people, because with Delenn and Lanier, Mira, she's doing her best to emote and show sadness with the Civil War. She's lamenting how the dissolution of the Great Council and the threats to Minbar are basically her fault, because they are. And Lanier, he's trying to comfort her. It's like, look, the council's role was maintaining peace. And I actually like what he's pointing out here. He says the council suppressed old resentments of the different castes. So like of the warrior caste, worker caste, religious caste. They have their different resentments and whatnot. And the council was able to kind of like soothe everybody. But he says they couldn't take those old resentments away. And so if you take away the council, those resentments come back up. And this makes me think about the role of governance. It doesn't matter what type of government, because the Great Council represents a certain type of government. EarthGov comes across as kind of like a representative republic type thing. And the different governments around the galaxy, the Empire of the Centauri, the Kari with the Narn, all of those things. And yeah, it seems like more than leading the people, they're trying to keep people from killing each other.
It's I found that interesting. Like, it makes sense to a great extent, but like when you consider cultural behaviors and how long it takes to put them in and remove them, they've had the Great Council for 1,000 years. That's long enough to remove those behaviors. So how did they, I mean, obviously you can hold on to something that long. We've seen that happen. And it's obviously not a definite that if you put some rules in place after a few generations, it'll go away. But yeah, the Great Council did do a very good job of teaching them not to have these things while also governing over them. Y'all had 1,000 years to figure out you shouldn't be hurting each other, even though your motto is not to kill each other. But you're doing it. So.
Oh, yeah. Apparently they're doing a pretty good job, too, right? What we're hearing from the warrior cast. Yeah, it just makes me also think of real life, real world governments and governance. A lot of times, because of the way that people even came into power, they came into power riding on top of people's resentments and prejudices. And then when they get into power, they come up with ways to police people's behaviors. Like, hey, don't do that. Like, yeah, we know we killed a bunch of people, but y'all don't do it. It also made me think of Star Trek, the difference between the Vulcan and the Earth or the Federation histories. Yeah, I guess you would say the Earth histories and the Vulcan histories. The Vulcans did have civil wars. They were very brutal, and they came up with kind of like a unified philosophy, and that helped them deal with a lot of their internal conflicts. But they do explore that a little bit more in Enterprise. There is a group of Vulcans who are like extremists, and they're like, we don't need y'all. We'll blow ourselves up and kill ourselves before we let humans into the Federation, So it's one of those things that if we go by the example of science fiction and a lot of the sci-fi writers and television, it's a cultural thing that you have to address first. You can't just start off with a top-down government and then when there's peace, be like, yeah, see, we're all good. We're all happy. Meanwhile, people are like planning to suicide bomb each other.
Right.
So I just wanted to kind of point that out. What we see, they are going to be connecting with a ship. It is the Takari. And that is where Naroon, remember Naroon? He was the warrior caste leader that was been on the station a couple times. So they're going to contact him. They want to have a conversation with him. While that's going on, Sheridan is back on the station. I love this. I love this interaction because Sheridan's on the station. He's talking to Londo and Jakar to publicly deny any existence of a defense agreement involving the White Stars. And he's just saying like, hey, just trust me. Londo is just kind of like not understanding. And this is some really awesome consistency with the character because even in season 1, when he was studying human customs and trying to understand the culture, right? And he was like, there's some things about humanity I just don't understand. Things like the Winchester Mansion, with doors that go to nowhere. I'm trying to understand this thing called country and western. Ooh, good luck. And then he mentions this thing, Rebo and Zooty. They're apparently a comedy team. Later in the season, you'll see that they are represented by Penn and Teller. And this is before they became like super, super duper big. They're in the 90s. It was an interesting thing. And Sheridan is just like, wait a minute, you don't like Rebo and Zooty? He's like, no, I don't get it. In fact, I was walking the other day and somebody is over there going zoot, zoot, zoot in my direction. I like, what is that? Oh, what was funny, he started off as like, I am mistaking you for a human who had good taste.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was too funny. And Sheridan's over there trying to reassure him. He's like, just listen to me. And then when Lando walks off, he attempts to recite a joke from Rebo and Zooty, and it makes no sense. Just watching the show, you make the assumption like maybe this is a crude joke of some sort, but I don't know.
I just really loved Londo getting a taste of his own medicine, because that's stuff that he would do to Veer and like people on his planet do to each other all the time. Like, right, we're just gonna tell you what to do it or else. You don't have to understand. And I'm not a big fan of it, but I already like understand why he's doing it, because the people that he's trying to convince to do something for their own benefit, they just, you can lead a horse to water, but you should push it in kind of situation.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. So we see the White Star with Delenn is rendezvousing with the Takari. Naroon and the warrior caste are there. So you have like a bunch of the religious caste on one side in the line and a bunch of the warrior caste on the other side. And they're just having like this weird face off. We have to remember that we're in a civil war. They're meeting on a ship, and these are the two different groups that have like these strong animosities, which I wonder what is the worker caste doing? Are they like just laying low and be like, hey, look, let them kind of do their thing. We got this.
We too busy repairs. When you said that, it reminded me of Bleach, where you have what do you call them? It's been a while since I saw Bleach, but in the Soul Society, the Soul Reapers are separated into a bunch of different groups. There's like 11 of them. There's 10 of them, but there's 11 captains. Or 12. God, I need to rewatch Bleach. Okay, the 4th Regiment are for medical and cleaning and basically maintenance. So when everyone else is fighting and stuff, they're running around like cleaning things up or helping people. They're also in charge of the sewage, the laundry. That's what I think of with the worker cast.
Right. They do all the grunt labor that nobody likes.
Right. They should be the ones who are actually in charge, because the other two casts wouldn't know how to function without them. But y'all the ones making all the decisions. They don't really know what's going on.
They wouldn't even have any houses.
I know, right?
Yep.
No clothes to wear, no weapons. Well, they had spirit weapons, so they didn't need to be sharpened. But like in a real society, of like samurai and stuff, if you had that job, you were probably sitting around sharpening the extra weapons and stuff. Oh no,
doing push-ups and stuff. Yeah.
Bringing powers.
We definitely found out during COVID how important, the people who clean are. Hello.
So Naroon, he expresses that he thought that the ship would fire on him due to the conflict at home. And Delenn is like, no, we're here. We need to really talk about some important things. We need to talk privately. Delenn explains that she trusts Naroon due to him being more motivated for justice than power. And Naroon is like, oh, okay. Which, I mean, I like this actor now. I wonder if he's refined this character, because Naroon comes across a little bit more menacing to me now.
When they first come together, it was interesting, the shots where Delenn is in front of the other warrior class and the religious class. Yeah, and he's standing behind a row of warriors. Like, that was very symbolic that I didn't understand at the time, but it looked interesting and it kind of drew. it grabbed your attention, which it should.
It also, I don't know, how do we feel about Delenn having all of this power to make these important decisions after we see her start several wars?
That's what Will is doing.
While that's going on, another Minbari, one of the religious castes, he's complaining to Lanier's like, we're treating them like honored guests. We thought that the warrior caste was going to come and surrender. And Lanier's like, no, you need to chill out. You need to pay attention. What we're doing is something a little bit more important. Delenn, she states that the civil war to Naroon, she's talking to Naroon. She states that a civil war winner means everyone loses because it'll throw the whole culture into chaos. And like that kind of reflects on what we were saying earlier. To her, it's not about which part of society wins. It's about all of society and the culture healing and coming together. And then she asks for Naroon's help to get the cast's attention. She is explaining like, yeah, we have this major risk to both of us. And like, it doesn't matter who wins. We all should come together in this and end this war. And Naroon is like, okay. He's not like that, but he's like, tentatively agreeing. He's like, okay, I think I understand. His whole thing is like, he doesn't think that people would listen to an agreement or to reason because people are so angry and upset with each other. And this sounds so familiar to 2025. We have, especially in this country, it's hard to say we have two sides because we don't. We have one big side and then a bunch of opposing sides. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because believe it or not, people, not everyone who is anti-Republican, anti-MAGA, not everyone is a Democrat. Democrats are the best branded version of that, but there are a lot of other groups that are like, yeah, you guys suck. Anyway.
Yeah. And they're a perfect example of why what I said earlier is wrong. Because even though we got rid of the institution that we got rid of the laws, the government aspects of racism, we didn't like fix the culture of it, like you said. So there was two parts of it.
And those resentments continue to bubble up and they're still out there. Like, and it's funny because you hear people use the exact same arguments that have been used for over the past 150 years when it comes to different types of discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will hear people like, oh, well, let's not talk about race. But then they will use the exact same racist arguments. So,
I don't mean to be racist, but then proceed to say the most racist thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a real struggle to adjust a culture, especially when it's so deeply ingrained and positions of power are valued, and it is very difficult to allow all to see that it is possible for all to have power, in the manner in which is suitable and necessary for each individual. Like if we were taking the time to, get to know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and then we can put you in a place of power where you have a strength and then allow you to rest when it is an area of your weakness, because there's so many of us to fill in those gaps for you. But thinking cooperatively like that is, very difficult for people. I just recently listened to a live where they were explaining that a lot of people who want the patriarchy like to fail, and they have so many arguments about it, but then they were highlighting those same people will argue against a point of patriarchy, but then right on the other side of it be supporting the very thing that they're fighting against because of the power dynamic. Yeah.
And that's the thing, like when a couple of things you brought up. One, this last one, yeah, people like power when they think that they have privilege. Not even when they think they have privilege, they just kind of assume it and think that everything has to be done from their perspective. And if it's not, and then that's incorrect, and we have to fight it. The other thing is, it's hard to change a culture, especially when that culture resists change and sets up systemic obstacles to prevent change. Like, to the point, we're at a place where American media and news is anti-truth. Everything is feelings. It's so funny. Even when peer-reviewed research is presented, the resistance to it is like, oh, what you're presenting is by the left. And it's like, why is it by the left? It's because they don't let the right in a peer-reviewed science. It's like, well, there's no like political alignment when you are doing research. It's just that people who are on the left tend to be a little bit more in line with the research than anything else. And people who are on the right just feel compelled to go against it. And it's like, if you don't like it, do some research.
A lot of that cultural aspect that people won't let go of is a trauma bond that they have with the ideas that they think are going to keep them safe. Whether or not they do is not relevant to how they feel like it keeps them safe. And that's their whole feelings aspect, that they're going to go by their feelings and not by the logic, because they've been taught not to use logic. They've been taught this is how you're supposed to think from a young age when their brain was still learning to think. So this is why people think the earth is flat. Or not that they're taught as it, some of them may be, but some of them are more afraid of what power they're going to let go of by using cognitive thinking versus, holding on to that. They feel some type of safety in it, even though it's harming them. That's a trauma response.
It's a trauma response. And it's also, there's something connected to that as well. People want to feel special. So it's connected to their core belief system, especially when their core belief system tells them like, you individually are special and you have the truth and nobody else does. Not even people who think that they believe like you, they're wrong too. And so you have these internal conflicts with people who are supposed to be on the same side. But yeah, we'll get a little bit more time to explore that, because a lot of that happens in this episode. We quickly switch. We have the Drazi ambassador. He's harassing Sheridan and he's asking like, well, y'all got some white stars out there on Centauri space. And Sheridan, he's being extremely evasive with his answers. And it's hilarious watching, because I know that Bruce Boxleiter is having fun with playing this character this way. And it makes me think like, I wish they had more opportunity to do this, not just one episode. You know what I mean? He's using his words to be elusive, and the Drazi, he's being extremely suspicious about it. And he's like, I don't understand why the Centauri would agree to have the white stars. They're pretty prideful and they wouldn't ask for help unless something was really wrong. And Sheridan's like, I can't really talk about
the use of their context clues there. That is brilliant. You're so smart.
Yeah. Yeah, they're putting it all together, right? And then Sheridan contacts Marcus, who's just hanging out in Sector 87. He's like, you see anything out there? He goes, no, it's just a bunch of meteors and a bunch of rocks. And Sheridan's like, okay, this is what I need you to do. I need you to fire on and destroy some of the rocks. And and Marcus is like, excuse me?
Don't question me, boy.
Yeah, that's what Sheridan's like, look, I need you to follow the orders as I say them. If you can't do it, I can find somebody else who will. He's like, all right. And then he just fires on the rocks. We quickly switch to the Drazi ambassador. He's talking to Londo. He's like, hey, we heard that you guys got some white stars and we want to know what they're doing. And Londo's like, no, we don't. We don't have any help.
This is where I'm like, notice it. They're gaslighting them into this.
Like, I can't copy the way that Londo was doing it, but he was being very grandiose with the way he was talking and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What did he say? He's like, the creators were against you. They gave you little beady eyes.
Yes, saying that maybe they couldn't see at night that there were, ships on their border. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
He was just being racist.
And then he's like, the creators gave us big eyes and big, insinuating being blessed in a sexual way. So I thought that was
don't he have like 7 of them or 9?
Yeah. And apparently you can use them to steal cards. Hey, Sunday, by the way.
Oh, God.
Never mind.
It is totally frowned upon in this establishment.
So the Drazi ambassador, he's talking to the other league ambassadors, and he's talking about his suspicions. Like, they're definitely up to something. The Centauri are denying it, so that means that it's true. And while they're talking, Franklin comes out of nowhere. This is the icing on top. Franklin's like, hey, we wanted to talk to y'all to see if we can get some samples of your blood so we can put it in our reserves. And they're like, well, how much blood? He's like, I don't know. We might need a little bit just in case something happens, like an attack. And they're like, what kind of attack? What do you mean? And he's like, no reason. And then as soon as they start questioning him, he's like, look, I gotta go. So I'll talk to y'all later. And he just like scuttles off, and they're all just like, no, something's up now. Something is really wrong. We need to talk to Sheridan.
Mm-hmm.
Which that whole thing, I thought it was great. It was hilarious. They need more of this manipulating of the manipulating the non-aligned world ambassadors.
I've always thought that like humans are really good at manipulating. But there are some humans that will manipulate for bad reasons. Like you can manipulate someone for like good reasons. I used to do it as a teacher all the time.
Yeah, insert the yes mom that has to manipulate the children into thinking that it's their idea so that she can say yes to what she wanted them to do in the first place.
It's like when we get a chance to talk about The Expanse. That's what that whole show is about. Anyway, yeah. So back on the Takari, the religious cast members are suspecting a surrender plan, and Delenn is not doing that at all. And so they're upset, and they're like, okay, well, screw it. We're not surrendering. They're not surrendering. But what we're going to do, we're going to kill everybody on this ship.
They're going to make sure this ship don't make it.
And that's the thing. They're more worried about the consequences of the conflict for their caste than their culture. And that's what I thought was really interesting. Basically, this whole show is showing the consequences or the risks of extreme polarization, where people are like, I'd rather kill everybody than to see your side win. It's not about a side winning. It's about our species, our culture, finding solutions and healing from this. But they don't care. They don't care about healing. So
that's really difficult, because if they don't work on the healing part, then there's never going to be any progress. Like, you had the Grey Council, is it? That was, kind of holding them all together. And what's going to happen when your mom and dad, like, eventually pass on? You need to, like, be learning to do things on your own and not be reliant on them. And why haven't they been learning how to work together over 1,000 years apiece, and y'all still ain't figured out how to get along?
Yeah. And that's like the point of the yes mom, is to, in a way, manipulate your child into cognitive thinking. It guides them into thinking without telling them what to think.
Yeah. I like that. It's just the way you said it sounded a little funny, but it's all good.
I mean, because technically you are. I'm clear on the fact that I used to manipulate kids. I somewhat manipulated my child. We would watch science shows together, and because kids like to do things for attention, I give him more attention when I talk about the things that he found interesting in those science shows. Like Ready, Jet, Go, whenever they sung the song about the scientific method. And I would sing the song with him, or dance, or talk about the aspects of the scientific method. And that way, that when he thinks about things in scientific method, he comes to me excited about it because he wants to talk about it. And that gives him those pleasure chemicals in his brain whenever he talks about the scientific method, or whenever he's doing cognitive thinking through the scientific method. So it sounds bad when you say manipulate, but if I told you I was manipulating yarn, you wouldn't think it was bad. So I could be creating something and not necessarily breaking things down. We have a negative connotation when it comes to manipulate. We have a negative connotation when it comes to, being selfish. Being selfish technically means to do things for yourself. Why is it bad to take care of yourself? Like,
because right. We attach emotions to words, and like you were mentioning, we don't have the thinking. What is it called?
It's a cognitive thinking.
Yeah, that one. And I guess I was just gonna find another way to say a similar thing, like a in a parallel, but we don't. Everything is force fed and given to us for the most part, and we're not given the opportunity to think for ourselves and to be creative because the people who are in leadership don't want us to think outside the box because we might think outside of the lines that they have colored for us that keep
Yeah,
us
we
in
might.
order and keep them in power.
But yeah, we
Right.
might
And
think them out of power, and they can't have that.
right. And
Stop thinking.
about children in the same like aspect that you think of dogs. If you know anything about dogs, they they're pretty much going to get to about 4 or 5 years old and like their ability to reason and think. And that's what you're just going to be dealing with for the rest of your life if you get a dog. But
Mhm.
some dogs are really, really smart. And then other dogs are just kind of like, I'm cool with couch potatoing it up. So if you go get you one of these Australian Shepherds and you think that you're just going to be like, not that smart, if you're not going to be smarter than a fifth grader, it's a bad idea to go get that particular breed of dogs because you've got like this challenge between the two, like who's going to manipulate who the best. And this is when I refer back to children. Nobody is manipulating anybody better than a toddler. Okay, especially like the infants who need to eat. Hello, and tell a parent that their kid is manipulating them and see if you don't get into a fist fight real fast. But you
Oh,
just got to be ready to out manipulate the other one. But because you're the adult who loves and cares and wants to take care of dog or child, you're going to be manipulating it into their benefit. And eventually they'll learn and grow and understand that manipulation, into theirs and others' benefit is possible and take that negative feeling away from the words that is like put onto us because of the bad people that do hurt us a lot. So that's back to trauma with the feelings of words and things.
So the Minbari dissenters on the Zakari, they're like, okay, what we're gonna do, we're gonna release this toxic gas. It's gonna kill everybody, and when everybody's dead, he's like, when we have gone from this place. What did he say? When we're something like that. It's like the ship is gonna keep going. It's gonna arrive at this other place, and I think it's like, oh, I can't remember the rendezvous place, but they want to make sure that they are found by other Minbari. On Babylon 5, Ivana was preparing for her broadcast of the Voice of the Resistance, and Sheridan is just like skulking around in the background, looking super goofy and obvious. And Ivana was like, are you going to stay here, or like, what are you going to do? Because we're about to start. And he goes, oh, nothing. I was just trying to see how things are going to go. Also, I want to plan a story, and Ivana was like, we can't be planting stories now. We are just starting this whole thing. People need to learn to trust us. Sheridan's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Because what we're planting, as far as the story, is true. It's the truth. And she was like, okay, what you got? He goes, make sure that you tell everybody that nothing happened in Sector 83 by 9/12. And she's like, what? He's like, no, just trust me. Just say nothing happened. Just drop it in there. It's A-okay. And she's like, all right. She starts a broadcast and she talks about like, oh yeah, special report, Sector 83 by 9/12. Nothing has happened. I repeat, nothing has happened. The League are watching the broadcast and they're like, something's definitely happening. and they're all like, we heard that there were some things being destroyed over here. What are they shooting at? We don't know. It's like all they found were like debris from meteors. I'm like, there's no way that they were just shooting at rocks. White stars don't shoot at rocks. It's like, well, what could it be? He said, maybe they're firing at an invisible enemy. There's some special technology that the White Stars have that we don't, and we don't have access to it since the Vorlons left. This is an outrage. How dare they keep technology away from us? We cannot stand by this discrimination. They got the non-aligned worlds pretty riled up. Back on the Takari, a warrior caste member attacks Naroon, whaps him upside his head. It was pretty good. Yep. And Delenn discovers she finds Naroon and she's like, "What happened? Let's get Naroon to sickbay." And they captured the attacker and was like, "Yeah, while we take Naroon to the sickbay, y'all put him in the brig and also give him a book of the religious caste so he can contemplate his problems."
Do you think that worked? Like when she said that, I'm like, y'all know this book, and he still came to this conclusion. You think reading it now was supposed to help? I don't know.
Go to your room and read this book. They gonna be in there reading books on how to build a bomb and blow up their school, okay?
And Delenn explains to the religious caste dissenters like, "Oh no, we didn't come here for a surrender or anything like that. We have forced a mutual truce so we can have equality between our castes. They're not surrendering and we're not surrendering. We've done something terrible." And they're like, "We just misunderstood what you were doing, but it's too late." And the gas timer that they had set up already went off, and now the ship is going to start slowly filling up with this toxic gas. Lanier to the rescue. Da-da-da-da-da. He's like, "Oh,
Mission Impossible."
Right. Dun, dun, dun. Mission Impossible, Minbari Impossible.
Yeah.
So he overheard the plot and he was like, "Oh, okay." And he just quickly acts and he jumps in. He has like nearly no protection, like that little face mask thing. Closes the gas canister. He inhales some of the fumes and whatnot, but he collapses because he sacrificed himself like a true Minbari would. And they're all like super sad about it and like, I've made a big mistake. Naroon, he reports to Delenn that Lanier is in critical condition, that he has lung damage from some type of toxic fumes. How did he come in contact with it? We don't know, but he's in sickbay. Delenn quickly runs to see him in sickbay. She talks about how he constantly is sacrificing himself. And he is all like, Temple was safer, which he's probably right. He's been blown up, poisoned, shot at, smacked. He's been in bar fights, all that stuff since he's been hanging out with Delenn. Delenn's a bad influence on Lanier. Naroon admits that he has deep respect for Delenn, and he recognizes her as someone who is seeking the greater good like himself. And that is kind of interesting. And we'll find out here in a bit why that's so interesting. Back on Babylon 5, the League ambassadors are impatiently convening. And they're trying to figure out how can we secure protection from Babylon 5. And do so without revealing their suspicion to Sheridan. And it is hilarious because what they do is they actually work together. And they use their ambassadorial powers to do so. So Sheridan meets with the League. He downplays the rumors about the Raider and the Drak activity. They're asking about like, what about those people? And he's like, oh, well, there's no big deal. We took care of those. And they demand that Babylon 5 protects their weakened fleets and their borders. And while the League ambassadors are uniting, they offer their full authority to support the White Stars. So to trick Babylon 5, we will offer our fleets to the White Stars too. Because Sheridan's like, well, what happens if we need to use all of our stars for a bigger mission? And the League ambassador's like, we'll add some of our ships to that too. We insist. And he's like, well, I don't know. And then the League ambassador's like, there's nothing you can do about it. We insist. You're getting our help. We're all coming together on this, and there's nothing you can do about it. And then Sheridan's like, well, I guess there's nothing I can do about it. All right, I'll write up the agreements, and we'll sign them this afternoon.
I had an issue with that because you want something because you don't have it. Like, you want something that you see somebody else has. And when they were trying to give you that thing, you resisted it. And it's just like, I want to do it myself. I want it to be my idea. instead of it actually being a good fucking idea. Because when he starts to tell you, like, all right, we can't give you what you want because what if we need this? We need this all encompassing authority. You're just willing to throw away all of your power to have this unattainable thing that you think that you want, instead of like listening to what Sheridan said and being like, we're going to need this power maybe later. You should have been like, hold on, in what circumstances, what would that look like? And I'm not saying that they should not have agreed to take the White Star's protection, but negotiated it a little longer and thought about it and like maybe put more stipulations in place to make sure that they were going to be consulted for whatever those potentialities were going to be, so that they can make sure that they're just going to agree in the long term and not say yes now and then not really be okay with whatever decisions that Sheridan makes in the future. Is what I'm saying making sense?
Yeah. But like
Yeah.
he tried that already. That's the whole reason why he's going through all this mess.
Sheridan, yes, but these people.
Yeah, you missed that.
Because they were all fighting for themselves. And they were like, we're not helping you. And then
Right.
his plan actually worked. And then they all were like, okay, cool. Now that that's worked, forget everything that we've ever done. We're going back to protecting only ourselves. You know?
Because in the Shadow War, they were actually being attacked, but they didn't see the point. They didn't see where what they were being attacked by was the same thing, because the shadows were using other people. And so they didn't see the point in working together in this one battle if there was going to be other things, if they were more concerned with other things. So he gave them something bigger to be concerned about that would direct them towards what would eventually help them. Because they're not thinking big picture. They're thinking about themselves.
Oh.
In this case, Sheridan manipulates that tendency to where their self-interest also aids the greater objective of Babylon 5 and the Aligned Worlds. They're all joining together to keep everyone safe and fight off like the Shadows allies who are still hanging out there.
Yeah, I think you're just missing what you didn't see during vacation, because we kind of just gave you a run through. You didn't really see it. Yeah.
Since I think they're just being stupid.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. She's looking at it as what reasonable people should be doing, and they're not, because they're not reasonable people.
Right.
Being able to negotiate it would be a reasonable thing, but they're all just like, well, no, I don't want to do it. That's pretty much it. Back on the White Star, Lanier is recuperating in sick bay. And he lies to Delenn about where the gas came from. And he's just saying that it's he discovered a freak fuel leak to protect the honor of the religious caste dissenters and Delenn's overall idealism. The thing is, I think Delenn could handle it. She would be upset, but she would be able to be like, look, y'all are some little fuck ups. We need to get y'all out of here.
And like he said, he was protecting the way that she thinks of them. But what she thinks of them is not reality, because if it was, they wouldn't be in a civil war in the first place.
Oh,
she just only. But they've mentioned that before. She always sees the good in people, which is not entirely true, because if she always saw the good in people, she wouldn't keep things from people when she doesn't need to.
Right, because Minbari lie. No matter what anybody says, the Minbari are some filthy, stinking liars with their pants on fire.
Oh, wow.
So we come back to the Voice of the Resistance broadcast. Ivanova is giving her address, and she is sharing that there was a new mutual defense pact between Babylon 5 and the League of Non-Aligned Worlds. And she reports on intensified fighting on Minbar. And that fighting definitely greatly concerns Sheridan, because he knows it's going to be with Minbar. So that means Delenn is going to be eventually leaving. Okay. something to think about for the next couple episodes. Delenn is on the ship and trying to figure out like where's Naroon, and Naroon, bro, he slips away from the ship in secret. He got his own little shuttle, little fighter shuttle. He left in the middle of the night. Lanier saw the departure and he immediately informs Delenn, and they're kind of in shock. Like, we had this agreement. Like, what is bro doing? On the Naroon ship, we see that he is talking to the leader of the warrior caste. Well, he's talking to his leader, Shakiri, and he mentions that he obtains the religious caste counterattack plans and what their overall objectives are. And he says, really, we know what their plans are, and we'll win this thing within a week. The religious caste is divided. It'll be no problem to conquering them. And he's basically helping out his caste to continue and eventually win the Civil War. And with that, the show wraps, and we are left with some interesting questions. Was all of that just a ruse by the warrior caste? It looks like it. Does Naroon really care to try to end the Civil War on a mutual point? It looks like it's not. And then the other question is, will the Minbari culture survive? Like, will their antagonisms overtake everything?
Yes.
Well, something extremely ridiculous is going to have to happen that is going to threaten them all in order for them to come together. Because as enlightened as the Minbari think they are, they ain't no different than the rest of these mofos that can't come together right now. Over me.
Minbar.
So yeah, we see that they use the broadcast in a pretty interesting way. Media has always been used to manipulate people. This is what the audience will see as a good thing. So we'll see what the results are. But other than that, y'all have any final thoughts?
Just they went back to the philosophy, kind of, at least. Not really philosophy. It's more psychology. This was very psychology. This was very much the way people think. And it's like with the contrast between Babylon 5 being open about information and still having to be manipulative in order to get what they want, whereas the Minbari was quiet about things and was getting, I don't know, doing what they were doing. It was a nice little contrast between the two, where there the contrast between being open and being covert. Because she didn't even tell her caste what she was there to do. Like, other than meet with the dude.
It's kind of like, I think it was in season 1, where she was all like, obedience is what's required, not understanding. And I think that policy has been backfiring on her since she's even said it, because everybody's like, I don't understand, therefore I'm going to do this other thing that I think I should do. And then when all the plans come into conflict, they're like, oh, I should have trusted you. But they didn't understand. So why would I trust somebody that won't tell me the truth?
Yeah. But that, going back to the like child analogy, right? When you tell kids not to do something because you said so, because you're the adult, they don't get to understand. They're still going to think what they think about the situation. They're still going to act on what they think. Giving them enough understanding to know what you need them to do is the best policy versus, smacking them.
Or demanding obedience.
You're right.
Which I'm going to share kind of like my personal perspective. Think of it like this. You're going to hang out with somebody, or you want to buy a gift for somebody, and they're like, oh, just get whatever. And it's like, I don't understand what you like. So when you say get whatever, doesn't help me. And then it's like, okay, I'll just get whatever. And you get whatever, and they are upset or disappointed or not happy with it. It's like, oh, you should have done this. You should have done that. And it's like, it's interesting because you could have said that. And both of us could be happy, but now it's like we got two unhappy people because one person refused to share and help with the understanding. So, So yeah.
I don't know, maybe it doesn't feel like as much of a gift as if you tell them what you want, but then you could be broad about it.
I mean, there's also like telling people the types of things that you like, and then leave it up to me to get the specific thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Be broad about it. Like,
It makes me also think about, I just learned this in communication tools, like when someone's upset and then the other person is trying to help them process their, frustration or feeling the blank feeling. And the one person is like, well, how can I support you? What do you need? And the in need of support person has an expectation that if the other person really understood and wanted to help them, that they would know what to do to help soothe whatever emotion that they're dealing with. And from my perspective, because I was not taught this, I think that if I tell you exactly what it is that I want and then you do it, that it's like not genuine. But I have learned through practice that if I tell you that this is exactly what I need, and even if it's not real, like it's not actually reality, when the person gives me that thing, it really does make me feel better. It's like, that's crazy. So I'm trying to even restructure my own thought process to just tell my partners exactly what it is that I need. They don't have to be some like, you know, mad scientist or read my mind or, have some all knowing ability of what is going to make Sunday, happy or less sad or whatever the emotion is that I'm dealing with. Just tell them what I need. And when they give it to me, see how wonderful it makes me feel and just be okay with that. And eventually, if you give them the answers enough time, it's like an open book test. Eventually, they're gonna know, and then it will be second nature for them to do it, and you won't have to keep spoon feeding them the answers.
yeah. It is sometimes when you're upset is because like something invalidating happened. If you can tell someone this is what will help me out and they do it, even if it doesn't necessarily fix the problem, it's still nice to feel like your feelings are validated.
Yeah.
Just to that opportunity to be heard is pretty awesome.
And then also like all of those things put us on the path to like discovering what the healing things will be, and that's all very helpful. Hopefully the Minbari figure it out. Yeah. All right, let's get on up out of here. Thank y'all for joining us for this week's episode of Voices in Hyperspace. You can find us on all your favorite streaming platforms, and you can continue the conversation with us on Facebook and Instagram at Voices in Hyperspace. I'm Legendary Black Lion. You can find me on Instagram at Legendary Black Lion.
I'm Mel Asylum. You can find me at melsrebellion.com, where you can also find my books and review them.
Hey y'all, this is Sunday. You can find me at a poker table.
And we'll see you out there.